Hello, my name is Wim Lievens, and in this video I will show you my Vola Open trading strategy on NinjaTrader 8. The strategy has been around for 5 years now, and I'm making it available for NinjaTrader users. As myself, I've been using the platform for many years, one of my favorites, and I think it was time to share this strategy with all the rest of you traders. Now, before we start, I will do a video on how the strategy works, where it comes from. I'll give you all the in and outs, and then of course I will show you the strategy live on the platform. Disclaimer, as always, please be aware that CFD, Forex, futures, whatever you trade, are products or instruments which you can trade with leverage, and leverage means that you can actually lose more money than you have on your account. So please be careful with that. You can learn the business with demo accounts. You even have prop trading firms today where you can test these kind of strategies, and you can gain some experience with these instruments. So please do. I will also say that I've been trading for my own account for many years. Today I still do this, of course, but what I do on my website, my trade class, is for educational purposes only. And also you should know that I have no affiliation with any company around the world, meaning I will never take a cent to help them open accounts, or even worse, get commissions on your trades, something that I have never done and that I will never do. I'm just a trader, right? Okay, so let's begin, and let's begin with the presentation. As I said, I'll go one step back. As I said here in the agenda, an introduction, of course, a word about the WL bars. It's a special bar I created 5 years ago, and which has become very popular in Europe. I hope it will around the world as well. There are videos about the WL bars already on my YouTube channel, but still I will present them. Of course, the strategy in detail, settings, parameters on NinjaTrader, and then practical examples live so you can see how the strategy works. Okay, so why trade this strategy? I've always been a fan of trading the open, and I remember I started in '98. First trip I did to New York to learn the business, but I have to say 1 year later I was already into these open strategies where we set the first half hour or the first 15 minutes, and when the market broke out of this range, the high and low of the first half an hour, we potentially could buy the stock or whatever. That's how I got into it. But then a few years ago, I started trading with movement, and I've always traded with range bars, movement bars, and since the last 5-6 years with my WL bars, which are also movement based. And so I always wanted to do this trading, the volatility at the open, but I wanted to do it with movement bars. And so that is what basically we do. We trade the volatility at the open, whether it's the European Open or the US Open, and we trade it with movement bars. Why does it work? And it's already been around for more than 5 years. Basically, even if you would trade this blindly, you would probably still do okay. And what I mean by that is you wouldn't make a fortune on it, but you wouldn't lose with it either. Why? Because it has a very, very strong money management system behind it. Also, the strategy is fully automated, so it runs on itself. Now, of course, if you combine it with some knowledge about market direction, market structure, which I will share with you later, then of course this becomes a very, very powerful tool. Yeah, it's suitable for all instruments, but of course we're going to trade instruments which move at the open. And in Europe, many people will trade this in the afternoon on tech stocks, on CFDs, Tesla, Amazon, Apple, and so on. So that's one side of it. The other, of course, is the American futures, the Nasdaq, the Dow, S&P 500. So you can trade those. So whatever moves strongly at the open and is liquid, and many instruments are, this strategy is suitable. Alarms, automated trading, you will see plenty of stuff you can adapt, but in essence, it's pretty straightforward, as you will see. Now, again, the big advantage of this compared to most open strategies is that the open range is determined by movement and not time. I will share with you how that works. Now, I remember the first time I was in New York, and it was the first time I listened to someone talking about trading, and it was in March '98, and this man was talking about Fibonacci numbers, and it was something with the Dow theory, and it was the first time I ever heard this, and I honestly had no idea what he was talking about. I was completely lost. But one thing had always stayed with me, and he said that one of the secrets of Wall Street was that very often the open would be close to the high or the low of that trading day. And I said, well, and so I started looking at it, and you see the example here on the screen. This is a 60-minute chart, and if you look at the blue line, which is the beginning of the day, and you see how the market moves, you see it's not always, but very often the market will make a nice move either upwards or downwards. So that means, to be totally honest, that if you get it right, if you get this direction right at the open, there is potentially a very nice move which could follow. Not always, but potentially. And here you see, this is and again, it's just an example. This is a NinjaTrader chart, daily, and just look at the bars, and then you can immediately tell which days would have worked or would have made this nice move in one or other direction, and which days would have been not the best. Okay, so that is the idea. Now, normally what the strategy does is it just trades the first move. So that means that very often this strategy, if you play it a certain way, well, you could be done in 3 minutes, you could be done in 25 minutes, but it's very rare with this strategy that you will still be in a trade, I would say after 90 minutes or something. Yeah, you could set it again, but that's another discussion, but that's basically what it is. And that was one of the reasons why I have been trading this for so many years, is because my attention span had to be quite small. I didn't have to spend hours and hours and hours before the screens. When I didn't feel like it, I could just activate it and it would run. Right now, again, what I don't want to do is to present this tool, even if it's a robot, as one of these, miracle solutions. I hate that. I've never done it. Will never do it. And I just, want you to have a look at this. And if you feel like buying this and doing this, test it on a demo account, and you will see. But I'm sure when I explain it to you, it will speak for itself. It just makes sense. What we all know is that there are 4 opening types, and most of us know them: the open drive, the open test drive, the open rejection reverse, and then the open auction, where the market goes a little bit up and down but doesn't really move. Now the first 3, the open drive, which is just one straight move, and the open test drive, which is just a move, some hesitation, a test, and then a continuation, or a reversal, actually a move in one direction, strong reversal, and then a strong move in the other direction. Those are the opening types. Now with the first 3, which you will often have one of those, this strategy will really work. In the open auction, it will not work. Guess what? If you set your strategy that you will trade 3 times, well, you will probably lose 3 times. And guess what? That isn't half bad, because as you will see, your loss will be very small. Now, what do we do? How do we set this? How how did I program this? How did I think of this? Now, what I actually did was I looked at the volatility in the time where I wanted to, trade the strategy, which is at the open. So I asked myself, at the open, 60 minutes at the open, what is the average volatility? Or if you want to, talk technical indicators, you could say ATR. What is the average ATR in that 60 minutes? And I said, all right, it's, let's say, as an example, which is, there's a real example. Let's say the Dow. Let's say the Dow moves 100 points in 60 minutes at the open. But if you trade it in the evening, it might only move 60 points on average. But at the open, on average, you can check this yourself, it's about 100 points. What I will do is I will take 5% of this value, and that will be the size of the bar or the bars that I use, of the WL bars. You will see this. I will share examples with you later. Okay. Now, here's the example. You see, this is a very simple 60-minute chart. I put the ATR in yellow underneath, and you see, of course, the volatility changes according to the time of day, but you will see that at the open, volatility is often highest, and you see the value is high. This is not the Dow, this is the S&P 500, and you will see that this is NinjaTrader standard value. The ATR normally is given to you in points. Now you can't read this, it's too small, but this level is about 12 points. Okay, there, that's about 12 points. So that means 12 points, that is, you can calculate it in points, you can calculate it in ticks. I always calculate it in ticks. I take the 12 points, I multiply that by 4, because I have 4 ticks in 1 point. That's 48, give or take 50. And then I take 5% of that, which will, I'll take it a little bit upwards, which will be 3 ticks. That means that the bar that I will use to create my open range on the S&P 500 will be 3 ticks. I can calculate this the same way for every value. I will show you later. Okay, so that is the principle, that is the idea. And you will see, of course, that this open range I can control and I can keep very small. Why? Because you will see that I will build, most open ranges are built on time. But that's a big problem, because sometimes the movements are very strong. And even after 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that open range can be huge, way too wide. And so that doesn't really help me from a trading and especially not a money management point of view. So that doesn't really work. So what I want to keep that open range small. So I use 5% bars of the 60-minute ATR, and my open range is built on 4 bars. You can change the settings if you like, but that's how I created it. That means if these 5% are one on the other, you have 20%. If you have 1 bar up, 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, then next to each other, you will have a range of 10%. So it will be in the range of 10 to 20% of the average volatility of the first 60 minutes. Now, it could be that day the volatility is a little less or higher, but still, you will still have a risk reward, which is excellent. Okay, so this is the introduction, the idea. I'll get into the details of the strategies later, but I have to say something about these bars, these WL bars. The name WL, Wim Lievens, I didn't even invent the name. It was something that was, someone thought about that, and it just happened. I never thought of a name. It's something that I created, and then it was picked up, and one thing just led to the other. So it's just what happened. Now again, here you see different presentation times, how you can present the charts. Time, volume, tick charts, range bars, Renko, Heikin Ashi, just a few examples. Now, they're all great. I mean, they have, if you know how to read charts, you know how to work with some of these tools, they're great. But I always felt for trading, and I had traded many years only with range bars, and then I tried range bars and Heikin Ashi bars together. I've done many combinations, but there were, of course, advantages, but also inconveniences. For example, range bars I found to be very precise, very good to trade, but when the market was jumping up and down, or sometimes the movements were not very clear, it got a bit choppy sometimes. It was jumping up and down and the colors were changing, and it was very difficult to see structure in there. With Renko, I had the exact opposite. I had very clear, beautiful structure, beautiful moves, but as you all know, it lacks detail. You don't see every tick, you don't see the real highs and lows, you don't see the hesitation points sometimes. So I mean, it gives you a rough analysis tool, but for trading, I think there are some imperfections. And Heikin Ashi, beautiful tool to show these beautiful moves, very popular here in Europe, but here the problem you have is that sometimes for trading, for analysis I think they're great, but for trading the problem is that sometimes you have very small and sometimes very big, large bars, and that from a money management point of view is not the best. So what did I do? I actually, that's the short version. I combined Renko, range, and Heikin Ashi, and they became the WL bars. This is picture how they could look. It's just one example in NinjaTrader. So basically, combining the detail of range bars, the clarity of Renko, and the direction or the swings of Heikin Ashi. And so I sincerely believe that with this bar I had the advantages of the three, but not having the disadvantages anymore. You can, go on my website, or maybe on YouTube. You will find some videos about this tool. So we combine the best of these three bars. And again, for those who are not familiar with movement bars, or what is a movement bar, it is not set by time but by movement. That means if you have a bar of 5 minutes, or a candle of 5 minutes, well, you will have to wait 5 minutes, and that candle or bar will build itself in 5 minutes. But here with WL bars, I will set the size of the bar. Let's say for the Dow Jones, I will say, all right, I want bars of 5 points. And that means that bar will be built from the moment these 5 points are achieved. Now that could be very fast, but that could take a lot of time. And that's people don't realize that, but that has a huge advantage, because that means that if there is not much going on in the market, if there's not a lot of movement, you will not see a lot of candles, which is exactly what you want, because this is not solid information. We can make money on movement. So if you have big movement, you have many candles. And so movement or volatility is a lot better, presented by movement bars, and I believe my WL bars, than it is in time or any other way. The risk reward is better, and I'll show this to you later. And that is when we talk about the Triad principle. You will see the entries are more precise and the risk reward is substantially better. Yeah, tries I will see later. Here you just see on the right, these are all visual presentations of the WL bars. You can use them in one color, different colors. You can have the bars, you can have the candles, you can have different ways. Now, the anatomy. I just want to, I'm not going to give you the the coding of the bar, of course, but I just want to, give you a little taste. And the picture you see here is actually a beta version. It was one of the first version of WL bars that I created in 2017. You can clearly see that there are, bars on each other, and it's a bit, it doesn't look very nice, but that's how it was done. That were, the first days. Wasn't always running smooth either, so we have done a lot of work on them since. But so you actually have a Renko. That is the first bar, and on this Renko we programmed under certain conditions the range bar, giving them the open and Heikin Ashi feature. Most people know that with Heikin Ashi, the open will always be in the middle of the body of the last candle. Here we've done something similar, but it's not in the middle, it's at 1/3. So it overlaps 1/3 or 2/3. That means the bottom or the top of the candle, showing or giving us an additional indication on how strong or weak the market is. So it's a little extra. Depending on how the market moves, this will show. Yeah. Now the displays, the candles, the bars, the colors, you can change, especially in NinjaTrader. I must say, from that perspective, it's a beautiful platform. Just history, already 5 years. My first trial was in 2017, combining range bars and Heikin Ashi candles, and I wasn't unhappy with it, apart from the candles that were sometimes were not having the same size, but it worked okay. In 2018, there was the first beta version, And in 2019, the Vola Open strategy, from what is presented in this video, was created. And that was with the first fully integrated WL bar. So the WL bars were, up and running. There were no bugs in it anymore. It really run. And that was 2019. It was only on one platform. It was quite successful. And then in 21, I created the bars for MT4, MT5, Pro Real Time, NinjaTrader. And there was still a small update in 23, which even made them a little bit better. And we will also add the ATAS platform and maybe others. I can't say, but that's where we are so far. Time flies. So first version on the top, and that is where we are today. Okay, good. Then the concept of triads. Now, most people know this. Triad is a group of 3. It's a known concept. I use exactly the same concept, but of course I will create or recognize or trade with these triads built from WL bars. Many people know this concept, will use other bars. I use my WL bars, and I have the same principle on triads, which could be potential reversal signals. Yeah, and you can see here, it's very important in the strategy. As you will see, the money management is based on these triads and is fully automated. You can activate or deactivate, but I'll show you later how it works in real time. But the idea is always the same. We take the spread, we add 1 or 2 ticks, so we a little safe distance below. In this case, when it's long, below the triad. If it's short, it's of course above. That's how we do it. You see some small screenshot how this triad money management could work, but I'll show it to you in real time. It's a lot better. Now, why, and this is not only for this strategy, since I've been trading with WL bars, well, my results are substantially better. And why is this? Not because I see better setups than before, because I've been trading the same setups for many, many years. It's just because the money management with this is better. And this is just an example, and you can do this on any chart. Look here under, that's a triad. See the potential gain you have. Now you're going to say, oh, Wim, but you could have stepped in there and there, and of course you have to go with the direction. It goes without saying, but very often, I hope you can see this, a triad is a small risk. This concept, this idea will return in this strategy. Yeah. So therefore, Vola Open is traded with WL bars. It's not because the signals are better or the market will move faster. No, because I can manage risk substantially better. And you see here, NinjaTrader, you see very simple what you see on the chart here, so that you know what you're looking at. What you see in orange is the open range. Then you see a red bar and a green bar. Now, the red bar signals a short, the green signals a buy, a long position. Then you see the stop, which always will set itself at the other side, the opposite side of the open range. And then you have 2 targets which you can set, manage how you like. Those are the ingredients. Very, very simple, very basic. Now, before I go to the detail of the strategy, it's something that in my courses I explain many, many times, is what I see very often, and mistakes that are made, and they should be avoided, and they should also be avoided in the Vola Open strategy. also be avoided or try to be avoided in a strategy which is fully automated. It is not because it's fully automated that it is waterproof. It just isn't. Yeah. And is it good? Yes, it's very good. But just let's use our heads, okay? Now, if there is no trend whatsoever, and I will give you some tricks how to see this, it might be better to stand aside. Don't trade against strong support and resistance zones. Wait until you pass them, or trade maybe the test of these zones, but don't step in just before these areas. Fear of missing out syndrome. Don't set this strategy to trade 10 times. It is made to trade maybe 2 times in every direction, say 3, but don't set it at 10 times in either direction. Yeah? It will rarely happen, but if you just catch a day where in the first 10 minutes the market would only go in open auction, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and you set your strategy at 10 times, this strategy will execute you and you will lose 10 times. Don't do it. I mean, it makes no sense. Okay? What I'll very often see is the late entry is people that will use other indicators for confirmation. Don't do this. You don't need this. You will see this strategy is very smooth, very direct, profits from the early entry, automated, which you manually probably couldn't even do, and so no extra indicators. Then playing and gambling, using this strategy, for example, when there's news coming out, is something that many people do. That's true, but we'll discuss this during coaching. We do never activate this strategy at the open. Never. It's dangerous. Sometimes there's so much reaction to news that, well, let's face it, the data that we're getting the first 10, 20 seconds, sometimes 30 seconds, is not really accurate. Oh, it's beautiful the next day. At the moment, no. So playing the news with this, you could, but we will set the timer 1 minute later. We will never set it at the news. Not because the strategy doesn't work or wouldn't work. It's just because at that time, there's just too much data feed coming through. As you all know, it can't all go through. There's too much volume at that time. And then you see some very strange things on the charts. And let's face it, the technology we have today at our disposal to trade has never been better. It's been superb. And these tools, also NinjaTrader, it works phenomenally well. But not at the news. Important news is coming out, then it is potentially dangerous. It's like, a door in this office. We could easily be with 30, 40 people. Well, you could still make it out of the door, but if there are 300-400 people which you could cramp into the offices here, well, it would take a long time to get out of the door. Well, it's the same with these moments of news, so be careful. All right? So, good. Now, the strategy in detail. It's very simple. You can run the strategy normally twice a day. Now, again, this is in English, so there could be people from Australia, people from the States, people from Europe. Let's say I live in Brussels, so I will say Central European time for people living in Scandinavia, for example, or in Greece. Greece is already an hour later. All people in the UK, it's an hour earlier. So, you'll just see, but it's at the open. The European Open is 9 a.m. Central European time. For us, the American US Open is 3:30 p.m. Central European time. So those are the times. You look at your own time zone, and that is what the strategy will be set at. Now, what will happen at the open? Of course, we've calculated the size of the WL bars. At the open, the chart will use the first 4 bars to create the open range. That will very often be seconds. It can be, sometimes it's 2 seconds. Sometimes it's maybe 20 seconds. Very often it's very fast. Once that open range is broken to the upside or to the downside and confirmed with the next bar, you enter the market, or the system will trigger the order. It's very simple. That's how it works. Setting immediately the stop at the other side of the channel and setting the 2 targets. You will see this later when we do it live. Very easy to visualize, but that's how it works. It's very simple. Now, there are several things, parameters you can set. Now, you could also trade this manually, especially the money management is, once people have a certain experience, they could take control manually of the money management. But I can assure you, when it comes to the entry, I don't think there's a trader who can do this as efficiently as the system. Okay, so that's how it is. So you set it at the time of the open, 4 bars are created. That's the range. When that range breaks in one or the other direction, you get an order. Of course, in the parameters, you can define whether you want to trade in both directions, or just in one direction. I could, for example, do my analysis of the market and say, hey, no way I'm going to trade short today. It's only going to be long today. Well, even if that means that the open market goes short and I just was wrong in my analysis, it can happen, fine. But in my world, analysis, orientation, I have to see and to understand what I'm going to trade. And if I see on the chart, look, this is for me the logical movement, I will set it in that direction. Some other situation, it could be that it's both directions. You can set it in both directions. Okay. You can also choose the amount of trades or the amount of trials you want to do in one or other direction. I can tell you, most people will use, I would say, 2 or 3. That means, and very often, 2 or 3 only in one direction. Okay, but I'll show you in when we do it live. So you will see it's very, very straightforward. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the parameters, and it's very simple to do. It's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit the anatomy of the Vola Open strategy. Once it's in the platform, you open it and you will get all this. What I've done is, on the next slide, I've made it a little bigger because you can't read it like this. There is not a lot in there, but I just want to explain it right. The strategy settings, well, they include the time of day, which you have to set according to your time zone, of course. The number of candles to build up the open range. As I said, I use 4, but I have quite a few traders who use 2 because they want to, be in sooner in the market. You could play with that. I use 4. That's how it's been set up. Then, of course, the position size and the direction. How many lots you want to trade. You want to go long, you want to go short, you want to do both. Maybe you only want to do 1 short and 3 long. It's all things you can set. Then, the money management. Do you want the money management to be automated or not? The entry is, but you would say, no, I'm going to manage this myself. I'll just set the stop with one of my ATM strategies. Just set this up. I'll manage this myself. Or you let the system do the automated money management. I would certainly advise to try this because it works like a charm. It really works well, and it is, the open is sometimes very, you know, dynamic, very active, and so it's I hate to admit it, because I think sometimes the system does it better than I do, but I would do it. So okay. Then of course you have the break even and the Triad stop. Now what does that mean? If the first target is met, the stop will automatically move to break even. Okay. And after that, it will become a Triad money management. And I need to explain this better, because I think I forgot to mention this. Okay, let me show you this in detail here on this little picture. This is 1, this is 2, this is, I'm just going to draw it below. This is 2, this is 3, oh, this was 1. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 candles, and that is the open. Okay, all right. Now I'll take here, so on purpose, this trade we lost the first one, you see, because it goes down. If we would have traded this short, the target was not hit, it goes back, we're stopped out at the other side of the open range, and it triggers the thin again here. What does happen? First target, second target, and then when we hit this target, this stop moves to break even. So going back in previous days, you can immediately see whether it would have been a profitable yes or no. It won't lie, because the moment you see that the first target was reached, that was a winning day. That was a win. Now that we're talking about winning and losing, let me tell you something about the business model of this strategy. Look, it's very simple, and I'll take a numbers example. Let's say you would risk $100 per trade. I would say that any day between 300 loss and 300 win is a neutral day. In a month, you will have 22 days. You will have to say you're going to have about, I would say, 10 to 15 of these days. You lose a little, you win a little. No big deal. The rest, you will have days where you make a multiple which is higher than 3. And some of them will be even 8, 10, 12. You might only have 2 above 10 a month, but I can assure you, if you put, and this is many years of experience, people having trading logs and all this, we kept this statistics very tight. This is how it works. So if you have a moving day, you're in the move, that's when you make the difference, right? Will it happen every day? No, but what will always happen is you will never have a big loss. It is just not possible. You can't. It's just the stops are just too tight. When this thing moves at the open, it has to do exactly what we ask the system to do. When for one reason or another it doesn't go in that direction, or it turns immediately before hitting the first target, we are out with a small scratch, not with a big loss. That's the idea. But so now I just gave you some idea how this works, and I go back. So all right, here, see if this is still working. My thing, all right, it still goes. Okay, setting parameters. I've taken you through this. Good. Now in a little bit more detail. Here you see there's a starting time and there's an end time. end time is that from which moment you decide I don't want to trade the open strategy anymore. Now it's set here at 21:30, which for me is, which for you is a half an hour, or which is a half an hour before closing of the session. I never do this. I will tell you quite honestly, this strategy in my mind, the maximum that we set it is normally 2 hours. So for me, if 15:30 is the open, 17:30 will be the end. It has to remain an open strategy. And I will tell you also, the only reason where this would, trigger again is when the market, for example, for 1 hour or an hour and a half goes in one direction and then changes directly completely and falls in the other direction. But that would mean that I would actually have to set the strategy in two directions, something that I rarely do. I have to admit, I'll explain this to you later. I look at the charts. I will say, all right, this is most likely to happen in that direction. I will set it in that direction only. If you set it in both directions, it will trigger for as long as you want. Of course, this is a day trading strategy. There are no overnights with this strategy. The count bar is there as well. It's set at 4. Again, you can, by trial and error, change this. Then, how many longs in the session? How many shorts in the sessions? As I said, many people trade this 2 or 3 longs or shorts. Certain days you could play both. It depends on the situation. Yeah, as I said, if you play this without any analysis, still you will do okay. Why? Because you will just win through the money management. Okay, but if you have some chart skills, you could do a lot better than a little bit. Okay. So then the money management. Basically, you have two systems or 2 possibilities. Well, actually you have 3. The first one, let's not forget that one, is a very important one, is your own. You use your own money management. That's one option. The second is, if you want to use the stop loss to break even option, meaning when I hit my first target, do I want the stop to move to break even, yes or no? I can take this out if I want, just, unactivate it. Once that first target is hit and that, stop loss to break even is activated, the Triad trailing stop begins. And what does that mean? And it's a lot easier to draw this than to explain this in English. Is, let's say the market goes and you have a triad. The stop will jump under that triad, and then the market continues to go up. You have another triad, it is confirmed, that stop will move there. So whatever triad is built, the system will follow. So it's very nice to, follow these moves. The smallest hesitation, you have a triad, when the market continues, it will go after. If you say, well, if you do this, well, I get stopped out too easy, and that is a shame, because sometimes afterwards the market will move still further. You could deactivate the trailing stop loss, the triad trailing stop, and manage it yourself. Yeah, you will be longer in positions. That's true. Bigger moves. That is also true. But you will have to stay in front of the screens longer. Depends what you want to do. But these 2 systems are built in. Then of course here, I'll have to clean this up first. So clean this up first. All right. And then hope it will continue here. See if this works. Yeah. Then you have the positions. You have a first target, second target. Depends is on what position size you're trading with. You could say, well, I'm trading with 3 lots, and in the first target I want to sell one lot, and in the second target I want to sell 2 lots. You can do it, or you can say at the first I just want to stop to move to break even, but I don't want to sell anything. You can, play with that. I'll show you during coaching. But what is also important here is at what distance will you set the target? And the way it's calculated here is the size of the opening range. So if the opening range, for example, let's make it easy, is 10 points. The opening range was calculated by 4 bars. It's 10 points. If I set the position target 1 size, you see here it says 2. It will take the size of the open range and multiply it by 2. So open range is 10. My first target is set at 20. The second is 10 times. I have many people who will, for example, set target 1 at 3 and the target 2 at a completely unrealistic distance. Why? Because they don't want to sell, they will just use stop loss. So you could use the target 2 size, not 10, but you could set 25. Well, I hope you'll make that, and it will sometimes happen, but very rare. And again, these are ways to play with it. Other people do is set the target 1 size at 1, then it's 1 for 1. You will be out of the risk immediately, and that is, well, it's an even better protection for losses, that is for sure. But the average win, how much you will make on average on your wins, will go down. It depends. So it will change the business model a little bit, but again, you can play with these parameters, right? They work really well. Then of course you have, as always in NinjaTrader, you can change everything you see. You can change the color, and of course you can set whatever account you want to use. Demo accounts, prop trading accounts, your own funded accounts. You can set them in and adapt order handling if needed, but normally you don't have to do a lot there. It pretty much works by itself. Okay, now importing this tool, very simple. People who buy this tool, they will get the tool from me. They will get the file. They can just import it through the tools, through what you see here, the import dialog, and then select the file you want to import it, and you will get a message that it was imported successfully. It works like a charm. You will find the Vola Open strategy under strategies. I will show this to you later in live. What I will also need, of course, as always, I will need your machine ID to activate the strategy, and you will find the machine ID under help. Then there is a button about, and then I think it's the 5th or the 6th line. You will find your machine ID. Please copy this in an email and forward it to me so I can activate the strategy. The strategy is activated forever. Normally the date I take is 2099. So yeah, most of you, that will work. Okay, good. Now let's have some practical examples. First thing I want to discuss is, how do I set this? Where do I begin? How could I do this? And I will give you a few examples, and afterwards, of course, you will have the in real time. I'll let the strategy run in real time at the US Open, give you more explanations. But I want to give you some practical examples first, some info how to do this. Now, what will always help you is to have a decent orientation or analysis of the market. Now, many people have different tools, and I would say use whatever you are comfortable with. Now, I like to use volume profile. Now, people who trade with CFDs, for example, they could use market profile or TPO, time price opportunities. The principle is somewhere the same. The only thing I want to see is what is the way of the least resistance. What level could it go to? And I hope you can see this here. Some example I gave you here where my cursor is. You see that it's at the high of the value area. In there, seeing this, I would probably set my Vola Open strategy only to the short side, right? Here, for example, oh, that was too fast. Here, for example, on the right here, you see that yesterday this was the low of the value area, right? Now, at exactly, this is my time, it's the US Open, it's 15:30 there. Since it breaks there, the logic is that normally it will go inside the value area of the previous days. Now, these are things that I will always individually, because people who buy this system get some coaching sessions with me, is things that I will discuss with you during coaching sessions. But me, just people ask me this very often, I will use simple volume profile analysis to find the way of the least resistance, right? So again, here a few words: price, volume, combined market structure, knowing the true value, also maybe knowing these symmetrical, non-symmetrical days, know how you have to read them. There are some very pretty decent books about this, very simple. I wouldn't make it too complicated, but if you want to have an idea where the market could be going, or moments where the probabilities of a certain movement are higher, I would strongly recommend, if you don't have already, to have a look at this. Right? It's a few pages. Huh? It's not rocket science. Another thing could be people who use traditional classic analysis with trend channels and control prices and excess prices and fair value areas and price movements, and some people use the Dow theory, and I would say that is all wonderful. Use this to make it easy. Either you use 5 minutes for this type of strategy, or you use the WL bars which you are actually trading. Do it in the WL bars or do it in 5 minutes. It will work both. A third option is, and this is more in Europe at the moment, there are quite a substantial number of people who already use my Super 5 trading tool. So 9 algorithms in there to recognize certain movements and trading. You can have a look on YouTube. There's also a video in English on there. People who have this tool already will use this as an analysis tool to define the direction at the open. It's a big help, so it's very easy. You can actually use your existing Super 5 system, and you just add the Vola Open strategy to that, and it will work fine. Okay, now here some ideas, something that I normally discuss during coaching, to give people some idea of the movements on the charts I'm looking for in the very interesting setups or directions where to play this strategy. Because don't forget, you can add the Vola Open on different instruments simultaneously. You can easily do that because you have different indices. You can use it on many instruments, and therefore, if one looks better than the other, or one looks more, you would normally favor that one and play that one day. So here I will give you then some ideas, some movements to look at. All right. Good. Now, I think there's enough talk, and in the next part, of course, we're going to look at this thing in real time. Okay, hi, here I'm back, and now we're going to look at the Vola Open strategy on NinjaTrader live. I just take you through the settings again. I have the Nasdaq and the Dow, 60-minute chart on the left. Why? Because I can see on the ATR what the average volatility is within the hour where the market opens, and you can see that on the Nasdaq that is close to 60 points, which is 240 ticks. 5% of that, as we discussed, is a range of 12 ticks. So I set here on the right WL bars 5. That is from the morning session for me because I live in Brussels. But in the afternoon, the market is more volatile. So I adapt and I change the strategy to the correct settings. I just go in the data series and I adapt the WL bars to 12. So, okay, apply. I have some indicators on my chart. Whatever you're using, you can leave that on. We discussed that before in terms of direction. I'm just for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna let the strategy run in the two directions, which you can do. I very often use it only in one direction, depending on my orientation and analysis. But so I just leave this on as an example. It doesn't interfere with the strategy. Right click in the chart, strategies, you double click on Wim Lievens, you add the strategy. Here you have all the settings we discussed. I will leave here 4 count bar. Of course, the starting time for me is 3:30 in the afternoon. You have to adapt that to your time zone. 2 longs in this sessions, 2 shorts. I will leave the stop loss, the automated stop loss system in place. Stop loss to break even, I activated. Trailing stop with the triads, I will leave that in as well. You can take those out. I will say a little bit more about that later. The only thing I have to do here whenever I activated this is to enable it. There, apply, okay, and you're done. Same thing for the Dow on the bottom left, where you can see that you have like 80 ticks, 80 points, which is the same for the Dow. In an hour, you take 5% of that. That is a WL4 bar. So I can just go in here, click that. I have that. That's okay. Right click in the chart, activate the strategy, double click. You have to do that every day. Yes, you have to do that every day. You have to, but as you can see, it doesn't take you very long. All the settings are in here: the time, number of bars, 2 longs, 2 shorts. I will use the trailing stop. I will use the triad trailing, and I'll just have to enable it. Apply, okay, and that's it. And now we wait until the market opens. So we're a few seconds away from the open. 2 instruments we selected: Nasdaq on top, Dow below. We set the size of the bars at the correct size. for the afternoon. And so what we're looking at now basically is, and you will see this can, most of the time, it's pretty fast. At the open, the four first bar and the opening range, which by definition will be small, will be built very, you can see them there, you see? Both bars are building. And we have
order submitted.
the first orders in. This is fully automated, so you see the breakout was to the upside. You see the stop is on the other side of the open range, and you see two targets. Now, when one target is hit, like it is with almost the Nasdaq, you will see the stop jump to break even.
Order filled.
And hold on, just need confirmation of that. Hup, and it jumps to break even. And now, every time we see a triad, that stop will jump just below that triad. Now, you see that also on the Dow, our first target was hit, and we were immediately afterwards stopped out by
order submitted.
And you see, very, very interesting session. We hit the open range again on the Dow, and then
order filled.
We, of course, and we are, it's going very fast. You can see, it's a matter of seconds and minutes very often. And but what happened at the Dow is that very interesting. It took the first target, but it fell back into the opening range. Then, of course, if you set the amount of longs at 2, it will trigger again. Okay, when, of course, as is the case, for example, in the Nasdaq, you're too far away from the open range, it will not trigger again. It has to move in there again. Now, what happened in the Nasdaq is actually very interesting. Why is that? Because there are many ways you can play this strategy, but if you say, as it was initially intended, was for people to play this and not sit in front of the screen, or sit in front of the screen for maximum 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, that's what happens when you trigger the strategy or when you set it up as we did. Now, of course, what will people see when they use this strategy for a while? They will say, hey, but wait a minute. Okay, I made a profit and I might have hit the first target and maybe I hit the second target. But if I look at the day, the instrument, the Nasdaq, the Dow, the Russell, the S&P, made a huge move afterwards. And that's sad, because I was in the correct direction. I was not in it anymore. And then, of course, what they will do very often, they will activate the stop to break even parameter, but they will not activate the trailing stop method, meaning they will want to manage that position themselves, which of course you can perfectly do. Because if you would have done that in the Nasdaq here, you see that that's a huge move. Just look at, an image says more than 1,000 words. I don't know if that is correct in English, but that's what we say in Belgium. And you can see that the open range is very small. Yes, of course, we lose trades, but it's just a small scratch. The potential, the move on average, which is calculated because this range is maximum 20% on 60 minutes. Yeah? No, we're not even talking about the day. So I just want you to visualize that and see, even, and that we've done that with Strategy Analyzer in NinjaTrader, even if we play it blindly, two each way, we still win. Why? because it's just a money management thing. But you can substantially improve the results even more if you have some
Order
idea
filled.
of looking at markets and recognizing trends and maybe know something about volume profile, or being able to maybe know the Dow theory or whatever. You use your own method, or you use, like I do, some indicators, some trend indicators I created for myself, and which I will use as a tool to define the direction. I can tell you, me personally, I will very often set the strategy to trigger 3 times, but very often
Order
only
filled.
in one direction. Hold on, I'm just going back because something's happening. Well, here we were first, the first target was hit twice on the Dow, but now it's over. You see, we had 2 longs, and that side is over. We set it at 2, it's 2. Even if it would trigger again, the platform would not take it. Now, question that I have a lot, I said, yes, but Wim, well, we like this. Can we not set it again? Yes, you can. I have people setting this strategy at 4 o'clock because they say, well, we have a feeling that the market chooses its direction at that moment, and they will not do the fully automatic money management. That's a possibility. Other people want to use it when news is coming out. Now, this I would say yes, but don't set the starting time exactly at the time when the news is coming out. Give it 1 minute. So if the news is coming out at, for my time, which is very often the case, 2:30 in the afternoon, I will set the strategy at 31. Don't set it when the news is coming out. It's something that I would strongly advise against. It has nothing to do with the strategy, which works very well. But we all know what happens at those times when there's sometimes, not always, too much volume coming in a few seconds, and then we know that what we see on our screens is not always a reflection of reality. Now you see here that the Dow is not really moving to the upside, but what will happen is now, of course, if it falls back into the opening range and falls underneath, the shorts will be triggered. Shorts will be triggered, okay? Now, something about the results. You can see that the Nasdaq, you think, is having a good day. Now, it's not bad, but believe me, it's not exceptional. That's what works. People say, Wim, how does this strategy perform? What you can do is, once you have it, run it on the strategy analyzer. We run it yesterday on 3,000 trades, and I'll be more than happy to share that and to share the strategy analyzer results with anyone who contacts me. I will show this in real time. Just don't want to show it because this is a moment in time, and this video will still be available 6 months from now. So I don't want to mention these in this video, but I'm more than happy to share in real time the results. What is the real business model behind this? You will normally have, I would say, 6 to 7 days a month, which are great. I would say let's 5 to 8 to be on the safe side. You will have great days. You see, you have a short again here on the Dow. Yeah, stop is on the other side. We'll see what happens. So that's what will happen. Now let's say, just to make it easy, let's say you would risk $100 on every trade. I would say that every result between losing 300 and making 300 on that day is a neutral day. But you will see that 5 to 8 days you will make substantially more, because there is a good move at the open, of course you're in it. You run the money management either one way or the other. What is the difference? If you run it fully automatic, you will win more often, but the average win will be smaller. If you deactivate the Triad move, you will be in trades longer, yeah, and the average win will be substantially higher. You can test all that with the strategy analyzer and see for yourself. That also has to do with how people, how their lives are organized, if they can sit in front of the computer or they can't. I leave it up, but both results are very good. And you see here we're stopped out. We had two. We have a very, very neutral day on the Dow. It's a Friday today. It's not the best day, okay, but I wanted to record this week. I've done the other languages and I wanted to do English today. And you see here, if you would still be in the trade, you can use these triads, which you now visually see, to move your stop. Me personally, I very often use this wide line I've created. I can always talk about that in the coaching sessions as a stop. Okay, good. This is the strategy, I would say, in real time. All right, let's maybe get some of this stuff away. Let's go back to the presentation, and I have one sitting in here in English. Okay, now what have we done? We discussed the philosophy, the idea behind it. We talked about WL bars, strategy in detail, which is straightforward, the settings, parameters also. They give you, well, a great number of possibilities, but they are very easy to set. Some practical examples. Which direction are you going to trade? How are you going to set it? Going to use the automatic money management, yes or no? How many candles are you going to use? I explained you how big the bars should be, and now brings us to conclusion. Now, I have been a trader for many years, and I've only done a little bit of these, tools and courses the last few years, more as a hobby. But if you want to see some of my videos, you can go to my YouTube channel. There are a few videos already in English. And again, if you want to contact me, you can contact me here through my website, mytradeclass.com. You can even call me. I still pick up the phone. I still do that. And just a few tips, right? I hope many traders more and more are familiar with the idea of how to look at charts. They can also recognize market conditions which are not favorable. Now, if you're in with this strategy, you will still get away with it because the plus and the minus. But still, I mean, look at it in that perspective. Try to trade in the direction that you see using the systems you know. Analyze with the volume profile, with price analysis, or with Dow, or with very classic analysis, or with one of the tools that I use, Super 5, or the lines that I just show. I'll share that a little bit more about that during the coaching sessions, of course. Please bear in mind that also with this strategy, the real money, and I mean with that, are the big days. So you have 5, 6, 7, 8 of those a month where you really make the difference. Some days there is at the open not much movement or not as it should be. It doesn't run maybe in one or in two directions, but has to find its direction first. And these are days, all right, they're not great, but you will never lose a lot of money, not with this strategy. All right. Demo accounts, maybe you have a prop account. You can all test this strategy, get familiar with it before you put your hard-earned money on the line. Okay, it's been a pleasure, showing you this. I'm so excited that so many people around the world, from all parts, different languages, take interest in what I do. And thanks again for your vote of confidence, and good luck, and maybe talk to you soon. Bye bye.